I'm excited. We've been talking a lot. We've been talking a lot about sustainable development. We've been talking a lot about globalization. We've talked about the different ages of globalization. But now we're going to have a look. In this class and in the classes that follow, we're going to be visiting some of the most amazing, some of the most iconic sites in the world. Many of them treasured UNESCO heritage sites, places that are so fundamentally important for our human heritage that they are beloved, they are protected, they are cherished, they are inscribed in UNESCO's list of key places on the planet that are truly part of our heritage. And we're going to be visiting these places to understand with our own eyes these 7 ages of globalization, and we're going to be understanding better by watching the changes as we visit these different locations, how society has changed across the 7 ages, how technology has reshaped our lives. Well, in this class, we're going to start at the very beginning, of course. We're going to start at the first age of globalization, the Paleolithic age, and we're going to see some amazing places to tell us about our start as the human species. So what is this Paleolithic age? Well, we have defined it as the period from which humanity arose in its modern form after a grand dispersal from Africa around 70,000 years ago, when anatomically modern humans, that is Homo sapiens, left East Africa and reached all parts of the world. This was the period of the last ice age, the Pleistocene. This was a period of vast glaciers across the northern hemisphere in North America and in Eurasia. So much water was trapped in those vast glaciers that sea levels were many meters lower than today. Places that now are separated by water were in fact connected by land bridge, most notably the land bridge of Beringia that connected Asia with the Americas and made it possible for humans to cross from Asia to the Americas and to settle the Americas. Well, this vast dispersal from Africa, starting around 70,000 years ago until 10,000 years ago, marks our first age of globalization. It was at the end of the Ice Age and the beginning of a new geologic epoch, the Holocene, that the second age of globalization emerges, the age of agriculture. The Old Stone Age, the Paleolithic age, our first age, becomes the Neolithic or the New Stone Age at the end of the Ice Age, the beginning of the Holocene, and the inventions in several places around the world of agriculture. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're just starting with the first of our ages of globalization. It is a true globalization because after the emergence of modern Homo sapiens from Africa, humanity reached the entire world, all ecological niches in the old world, throughout Africa, to Australia, to the Americas. Vast migrations interconnecting humanity over the whole stretch of the inhabited Earth. So how did all of this begin, and what will we learn as we explore this first age of globalization? Well, even to get to the 70,000 year ago beginning of the vast dispersal from Africa, we step back before this first age to understand the evolution of anatomically modern Homo sapiens themselves. As a species, we're only around 300,000 years old. Homo sapiens evolved in Africa. Exactly how, when, and where is still very much debated among the scientists. Somewhere between 200 and 300,000 years ago, the first anatomically modern humans emerged. Before that, there were our ancient ancestors, the same genus as Homo sapiens, the Homo genus meaning humans, but these were ancient humans. These were our evolutionary ancestors. And around 500,000 years ago, a genus Homo heidelbergensis was presumably the common ancestor of today's modern humans, and another line of the Neanderthals who later were driven to extinction by climate or maybe by modern humans or some combination of the two. So we can trace Homo sapiens back to around 500,000 years ago to an ancestor species, and before that to even earlier Homo species, Homo habilis, or the human with ability, and Homo erectus, the human that stands upright, as our ancestors during the past 2 million years. And it is thought by scientists now on extensive evidence that the human line that would give rise to Homo sapiens and the line that is the ancestor of today's gorilla species divided around 6 million years ago. In other words, the last common ancestor between modern humans and gorillas, our closest relative in the animal kingdom, was a common ancestor that lived around 6 million years ago. So we're going to explore the origins of modern humans themselves, of Homo sapiens, and then how Homo sapiens in this first age of globalization reached throughout the world and established the bases of modern human life, modern human settlement. Now, this was a period of profound achievement for our modern human ancestors. They left Africa 70,000 years ago or so, reached the entire world on foot, on migration, but apparently also by raft or even canoe, and reached vast expanses in what obviously were remarkable acts of discovery. And of course, in the first age of globalization, some of the most fundamental technological achievements of humanity occurred. And one of the greatest breakthroughs, a kind of invention, was modern language itself. Nobody knows, no scientist knows certainly when modern language emerged, but it is thought that it was in the period between 50,000 and 70,000 years ago that human language, which is common to all humanity, first developed among modern Homo sapiens as they explored the world. And we can see many other technologies, gains of knowledge of foraging or of hunting and gathering, because that was the universal occupation of our early modern ancestors. Gains in stone tools of greater sophistication. Of course, breakthroughs in military technology as well. It seems likely because we find arrowheads that date back around 50,000 years ago. So it is supposed, though not proved, that the bow and arrow is not a modern invention of the last few thousand years, but perhaps an invention of 50,000 years ago. And it is, of course, in this period that many of our core traits as humans, our abilities to cooperate within our groups or our band or our tribes, our sympathies for those within our group, but our antipathies or readiness to fight with the out-group developed as part of our deep human nature. We can look to modern hunter-gatherer societies to give us some idea of what our ancient hunter-gatherer ancestors were probably like. And the evidence suggests, of course, it's a bit of guesswork, but with evidence behind it, that these bands of hunter-gatherers in the Paleolithic or the first age of globalization were highly egalitarian societies without private property, but with shared ownership of resources, with the sharing of the results of the hunt or the sharing of the results of the foraging for plant species and so forth, and that egalitarianism was the first kind of politics and the first kind of culture, the early culture of this first age of globalization. Now, in this unit, as you study the first age, I really would like you to think about particular questions that come to mind as we study the very beginning of humanity at the global scale. First, of course, I want you to become familiar with the prehistory of Homo sapiens, the Homo species that preceded Homo sapiens. I'd like for you to understand at least the basics of the modern science of how Homo sapiens evolved from these earlier relatives of ours. I would like you to pay attention to the key inventions of this first age of globalization, to human language, to the inventions of culture, to the inventions of politics within the community, this highly egalitarian politics that I mentioned. Of course, you will become familiar with the concept of the emergence or dispersal from Africa, the idea that all of modern humanity in all parts of the world have as our common ancestors the Homo sapiens, the modern humans who emerged from East Africa to spread across the world starting around 70,000 years ago. You will come to understand also how different parts of the world were settled. And for example, the arrival of Homo sapiens from Asia across Beringia, the land bridge connecting Asia and the Americas. Reaching the Americas, we think, sometime between 15,000 and 25,000 years ago, with a big scientific debate of exactly when that was. But quite clearly, modern humans reaching the Americas from Asia over the land bridge. And of course, it will be important to understand the nature of the transition from the first age of globalization, the Paleolithic age, to the second age of globalization, the Neolithic age. In this case, a transition that was paced fundamentally by a change of the global climate. The end of the Ice Age, the emergence of the climate that we know, the geologic period called the Holocene. So there's a lot to learn in this first age of globalization. Let's get looking with our own eyes. Let's go visit the true cradle of humanity. Let's go to East Africa. And in particular, we're going to Kenya. We're going to visit places in Kenya that mark the great scientific discoveries that help us understand the evolution of Homo sapiens and their early development. Two places that we'll visit that are absolutely remarkable. First, the Kenya National Museum, which brings together the amazing scientific discoveries about ancient humans and predecessor hominin species, that is even before the Homo species, back to our common ancestor with today's modern gorilla species. We'll see tremendous and vivid displays of that human evolution. We will go to an amazing site, the Olorgesailie prehistoric site, which is a place where physical anthropologists, the Leakey family and colleagues and associates have made phenomenal discoveries of tools of ancient Homo species, the hominins that preceded Homo sapiens, and discovered so many key insights into the evolution of modern Homo sapiens. So in this visit, we're really going to the cradle of humanity itself. It gives us a wonderful starting point to our exploration of the first age of globalization, the Paleolithic age.